And it's time, everybody. Welcome to the big leagues. As we start a hell of a beginning tonight, I'd like to introduce the Diamond Blades podcast. While myself, Adam Nazz, will be joined by sports radio host Shukri Nazz here. How we doing, pal?
Shukri is in the house, and I am distracted already. Is that a cutie at the front of a magazine? What is that?
Oh, yeah.
That's Cap America. What are the odds? We're starting a podcast, and then all of a sudden I see a cute blonde wearing a cap, and I can't even read it because the letters are eligible based on how it's positioned. But goodness grief, but I am great, man. I finally had me some pizza and some wings before the show because I refuse to do the show hangry. I'm fired up, man. Let's do this. How are you doing?
I'm having a great time, man. Been a long day, a long day at work. Just looking excited to do this stuff. We're gonna be shooting the breeze about Sox and bees, along with what's going on, the hottest takes in baseball and hockey.
For sure.
I want to give a big shout out to Hedge Better, LLC, everything that's going on here. Appreciate you, Justin, for making this happen. So tell us about you, Shukri. What's going on?
About me, it depends. Well, if you're asking in terms of my broadcasting acumen, or in terms of my personality. I'm pretty intense, I'm pretty passionate. But broadcasting, I would say I am a sports radio host, have been in this market for about 3 years now. Host my own radio show on 91.5 FM WMFO, 100.1 FM WBRS. I also do a national show for Pacifica Radio Network, which is available on demand on iHeartRadio. And in that show is actually going to be restarting up soon. Took a bit of a hiatus. And I also host my own podcast called the Shukri Nazz Podcast on iHeartRadio and Odyssey. You can watch it on YouTube, in which I talk to some of the big names in the industry. Most recently, I spoke with Keith McPherson of WFAN.
Good stuff.
I spoke with, I'm trying to think, who did I have on my last episode? Gee, shoot, what an idiot. I have such a short-term memory. I had Beatle, Mark Bertrand. How do I forget my own damn, seriously.
That's a Quincy Mass guy.
He's a Quincy man. Had him on the podcast.
There you go.
So I'm pretty well-versed and experienced in the industry, podcasting, radio, national and local as well. So that is about me professionally. Me personally, I am here to get you thinking, entertain you. Absolutely gotta find ways to liven things up, because part of my personality is that I am a big believer in engaging the people who you talk to, who you have interactions with, and not being afraid to be yourself. So that's basically about me in a nutshell. Tell me about yourself, man.
So I got
I sound like a narcissist over here. What the hell?
Straight out of Quincy, Massachusetts. Host the Steele and Nazz podcast. If you haven't heard of it. I grew up, going to college through, sports internships, working at newspapers and TV stations. And you know what? I wanted to take a step further of, doing my own thing, because I'm told you can work as hard as you want, but if you don't bring your own creativity, nothing's going to be accomplished. So coming in here, I feel like, at least myself, I'm a very passionate person, whether you see me in the booth, whether you see me at my job, or you see me on the softball field. I'm sure people stress out seeing that too. I like screaming at umpires and shit like that. But we're going to keep it real on you for this podcast. I have a big baseball background. Guy right next to me knows all about hockey, knows all about baseball. I played hockey too, kind of a third-line grinder in high school, but it is what it is. So we're going to bring you hell every episode on here, whether, we're debating about, was Tuukka Rask the greatest Bruins goaltender of all time? Does Bruce Cassidy suck? We're gonna have some high debates here. And also, I want to introduce, at the end of every show, we'll have the power play round. The name originated from Shukri. I'll give you that. I'll give you the props there. Which will feature the hottest topic in any sport. This week, there's a big game in LA as the Bengals take on the Rams in Super Bowl 56. So we'll have our takes on Super Bowl, and there's a bunch of stuff we'll get after, this inaugural episode, and I couldn't be happier to do it with you, Shukri.
I'm excited. I am just calm right now, because it just feels like it's gone by very, very slowly. This whole week has been dead.
Yeah.
Normally by Wednesday, you're like, all right, let's go. I'm ready for this game. But this week has been it's been crickets.
Yep, it's been slow.
It's been very slow. And
I think it's already Friday.
I'm thinking today's Friday, and it's no, it's Wednesday. It's really? I mean, Sunday can't get here fast enough. Like, come on, like, let's go. But I'm fired up, man, for this game. It's going to be a great matchup this Sunday. For
sure. Let's get into it. We were going to get into the Bruins midseason awards, but we were talking right before this. And, when there's breaking news like what happened in the Bruins world today, you kind of, throw out the script, let that shit burn.
Basically.
And, breaking news. Tuukka Rask, the 15-year veteran on the Boston Bruins, has called it quits today. Had a bit of a hip injury and kind of couldn't survive it. I don't know if it's the coaches said that, it's not going to work out or he was actually hurt. Shukri, I'll give you the first word.
Well, in this situation, like, he had surgery on his hip and he had an injury that was from last season, and he tried to battle his way back through rehab, and it just wasn't working out the way that he had hoped. And he talked about it in his statement today, in which that I'm going to read it to you in its entirety, which is still hard to believe that that his career is essentially over. Now, for those of you that are listening to the podcast for the first time, or for some reason you're just catching wind of the news late, so this is the statement that was released by the Boston Bruins and Tuukka Rask himself today. He said, quote, "Today is a day that I hope would never come. But now it's here. I feel I owe it to everyone to hear it from me. When I made the decision to have surgery on my hip last summer, I did so knowing that the road to recovery would be challenging. I also knew it was something I would have to do if I wanted to give myself a chance to play my best hockey again. The rehab, the workouts, the practices, all of it was with the intention of getting back to where I needed to be to help my teammates win games and make another run at a Stanley Cup. Over these last few weeks, I've realized that my body is not responding the way it needs to for me to play at the level I expect of myself and that my teammates and Bruin fans deserve." This is now part 2 of 4.
Yep.
Therefore, it is with a heavy heart that I announce my retirement from the game of hockey. While I am sad to say goodbye to the game I love, I am so very thankful to have shared these last 15 years with the greatest teammates and fans in the best sports city in the world. We have shared so many special memories over the years, bringing the cup to Boston in 2011, our runs to the final in 2013 and 19, playing overseas in the Czech Republic, Northern Ireland, and China, and of course, the Winter Classics. I am also so thankful I was able to represent Finland on the world stage and win a bronze medal in the 2014 Olympics, part 3 of 4. While these experiences were all incredible, what I will remember most about all of them is the bond I had with my teammates, coaches, and team staffs, the memories that we'll always have, and the friendships that will last a lifetime. Through all of the ups and downs, I am so grateful for all of the support this team and the people of Boston have given me. I will miss everything that comes with representing the Boston Bruins. But now, I am excited to spend more time with my family and friends who never stopped supporting my dream. Boston is so special for so many reasons and will always be our adopted home. We look forward to remaining a part of this amazing community. Last part, I especially want to thank the Jacobs family, Cam Neely, Don Sweeney, my coaches, the equipment staff, and the rest of the team support staff for all they have done for me throughout my time with the Boston Bruins organization. I've never wanted to play for any other team. I'm so proud to have worn the Spoked B for my entire career and wouldn't have had it any other way.
Boom. So right off of that statement, before I go off on a terrific 15-year career, I just want to say that yeah, it was probably the injury, but the fact that he had like probably 4 straight appearances of not playing well, I think that definitely had something to do with it. I'm sure the Sweeney or Cam Neely or even Bruce Cassidy himself came up to him. All right, we have 2 other options. We have a son of a gun, warming up in Providence. We have a lot more options than, having a half-assed, Tuukka Rask.
Yeah.
But by saying that, I also want to say that Tuukka Rask, I think in Bruins history is the best of all, like the best goalie of all time. You want to talk about 308 wins, which is incredible.
Yeah.
A goals against average for 2.28, and I know he didn't win a Stanley Cup, which is a goddamn shame.
As a starter, but he did win as a backup.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
I mean, yeah, I get that it doesn't count, but I mean, he's still on his resume. But we can debate that in another segment. But I will say this much in terms of Tuukka Rask.
Yep.
In terms of his injury, it really is a shame because if you think about Tim Thomas, for example, how his career ended. In terms of like the injury he tried to come back from, by the end of his career, he just wasn't a shell of himself. He just wasn't right.
Yeah, the problem with Tim Thomas, I'm sorry to interrupt, but he was like 40, 41 years old. So when you get that old, it's kind of tough. And no one's Tom Brady.
Right, especially in hockey.
Yeah.
But to take it a step further, I will say is that when you talk about hip injuries, especially at 34, it's hard. It is hard because you need your hips to be at optimum strength in order to move from left to right, goaltender position, and so forth. So I don't think he was forced out the door. I don't even think that really is the question because everyone who has been following the story knows that this was an injury that he said that he wanted to come back from and have the opportunity to play, and he was willing to play for basically cheap dirt money, and he did. Problem was that his performances were indicating that I don't think he's fully right. Yes, he didn't play with Providence because the games that he was supposed to play in got canceled. Because of COVID. But at the same time, with Tuukka, he acknowledged that, listen, I don't think I'm going to be able to get back to the prime level or the optimal level that I've been accustomed to for so long. So he said, you know what? I'm going to call it quits. Was it painful? Yes. But to take it from Tuukka himself to a bigger picture view, you can't sit here and feel as a Bruins fan that this is not the end of an era. I mean, you talk about over the last, year and a half, almost, the departures, the Daniel Chara leaving, David Krejci leaving. And then also don't forget, I can't forget about Torrey Krug as well, his free agent departure, also along with Chara.
Yeah, exactly.
But now, Tuukka Rask, that's a big one. And I tweeted this out earlier today on Thursday that I said it wouldn't shock me if Patrice Bergeron, in fact, calls it quits at the end of this season. And the responses on Twitter really speaks for themselves. But overwhelming a majority were like, I can't take this idea, Shu, please. Like no way. But this is where we are. I mean, we've seen the guys who were part of 2011 leave. We've seen guys that were part of the last Cup final run 3 years ago leave. And I think that this news really is a kind of like a gut punch.
Yeah, on Tuukka Rask, the thing that I get in my head and when I think about him calling it quits right away is, what if he was playing well? What if they were winning games? What if he didn't let up a lot of goals, but it was still hurting? I guarantee he'd still be playing. So the fact that they were losing, I think that kind of made his choice easier to call it quits. And on your point of the Bruins, winding down here in this era, I still obviously Brad Marchand still has a lot of hockey to play. Not in the next 5-10 games, but it's still a lot to play.
Yeah.
Patrice Bergeron getting having concussion here. That kid reminded me of Mark Savard. Unfortunately, what happened to his career. But this is like the second time this has happened, and he hit his head pretty bad last night. He's on year 19. I don't know how much more he wants to play. I know hockey players can play well into their 40s, especially a guy like that who has played well for so long. He's up for it's not the Conn Smith.
For the Selke.
For the Selke.
But I wouldn't compare Bergeron's career to Mark Savard because Mark Savard's injury history is literally littered with concussions. Bergeron had that one nasty concussion during the 2007-2008 season. I mean, all Bruin fans remember what I'm talking about. But in terms of the head injury that he sustained last night against the Penguins in their loss to the Penguins, I just can't help but to think, with everything that's going on surrounding the team, in the future and the direction of where this team is heading, I can kind of see the writing being on the wall for Patrice Bergeron in terms of his career as a Bruin. Is this potentially the end? I've been saying this truthfully since last summer of 2021 that it would not shock me in the slightest if this season, 2021, 2022, ended up being the last season of his career. And so far, all of the little things have added up.
Right.
You go back to All-Star Weekend. He had his entire family with him. Not that it was something out of the ordinary, but when you hear him at his press conference, you can hear him talking about, wow, just reflecting, kind of like in that, not almost in a melancholy way, in a sense. Sort
Father
of.
time's coming. I will say I would be very surprised because he's played in the NHL since he's like 17 years old.
18,
yeah, whatever it was. But for me, if it's an injury that keeps him away, I don't think the passion of the game of hockey is going to keep him away.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a Tuukka Rask thing where over the summer he's thinking about did I get enough out of this game to where I can, look back, and that even as a fan, even looking at him, it's 100% yes. You look at a guy. I compare, I guess, his career just the longevity wise. I know Tom Brady played 22 seasons, but Tom Brady this year was like, okay, I've played enough. I can look back. I'm the greatest player of all time. Obviously, Patrice Bergeron isn't the greatest NHL player of all time, but I think he's had a good enough career, a Hall of Fame career. He's going to get his number retired by the Bruins.
Best defensive forward in NHL history.
History.
Yeah.
So I think you have a great case of, if he looked back and was like, okay, this is the last season, this is it. I would be shocked. Don't get me wrong. I would be shocked. But, in terms of, he had one more year in him. I'm not necessarily on that movement.
I think part of me as a fan does not want him to finish, but Father Time hits everybody, even Tom Brady. Like, we're still in a way trying to pick up the pieces. Like, he really is done. But although his comments in the Jim Gray podcast, him saying never say never, indicate that he might be considering making a return at some point.
I don't agree,
but that's neither here or there. But the reality is, every legend has his day where they have to say goodbye. And Tuukka Rask, as much as I've been critical of him, as much as I have criticized him in terms of his inability to come up big when the team needs him most, I do believe that, yes, statistically, he is the greatest Bruins goaltender of all time. But at the same time, I will also say that Tuukka Rask ultimately will go down as one of the most underappreciated athletes in Boston sports history.
It's not even close.
I don't think that's hyperbole to even admit that on a podcast.
No, there's a whole fan club of Tuukka Rask haters. I'll never understand why. If it was not for him, they wouldn't even gotten to the Stanley Cup in, was it
2019?
2019 and 2013.
Yeah.
I think he's a big foundation of how this team, to your point, hasn't crumbled yet, and the crumbling's coming. And you said the writing's on the wall.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Tuukka Rask is a big reason why this core stayed together, and even to the point of having the best first line in the league. That stayed together for so long because of the production that you had in the goaltending position.
I mean, part of it was the reason why the first line stayed together was because of the offensive production you were getting from Bergeron and Marchand and Pastrnak, who developed into being one of the best scoring wingers in the league. Now, with the perfection line being broken up and Pastrnak playing on that second line along with Eric Haula and Taylor Hall, that has now shown me that if you're talking about the top line being what it was and still being effective, even with Craig Smith being on that top line, you got to give credit to the greatness of Patrice Bergeron. But in terms of Tuukka, there have been times, you got to go back as recently, I want to solely focus on 2019 specifically. Tuukka Rask has shown time and time again that during that Cup final run in 2019, starting with the series against Toronto, his ability to stand on his own head. He came up huge in that Game 7 against Toronto.
Huge.
And in that series against Columbus, in a series that the Bruins won in 6 games, Tuukka came up huge in Games 4 and 5. Especially in Game 5.
That was a goal fest.
It really was.
He was incredible.
Yeah.
They swept Was it they swept the Lightning in the series before? I think.
No, you talking about Columbus?
I'm talking about Columbus.
They swept Tampa Bay,
which was all goaltending. I think they get outshot every game. But to your point exactly of Tuukka Rask, stepping up there in the moments they need the most. Yeah. I even think that there were comments after that season of like, you don't want to face that, like, because there's a bunch of haters of Tuukka Rask.
Sure.
I mentioned that. I'll mention that. I'll keep doing it. But, there's even comments from, opposing players saying, yeah, you don't want to face that guy in a big game. Even the meltdown in Game 7 against the Blues, it was all their fault. That was the one finals that I did not put on Tuukka whatsoever. Yeah. Consistently on radio, whether it be on social media, I never once blamed Tuukka for 2019. Yeah. You got to Game 7 because of Tuukka. Yeah. Time and time again. But if you want to go back to 2013, yeah, I'll give you that. 2 goals in 17 seconds. I mean, that's like the black hole that's been seared into the memory of Bruin fans. But today, I'm not going to nitpick and pick faults at Tuukka. We got between now and the end of the season, like not now, but obviously like next week on until the end of the season to talk about what will the legacy of Tuukka Rask ultimately be. In my take on the 2013, just a little thing here, I don't think it was anything of the Bruins blowing it. I think the Chicago just came out there and took it. They were the better team. They just went out there and took it. Like they were truly the better team, and we could sit here and argue about revisionist history, but the reality is when I look back on that 2013 Cup final, Chicago was an all-time great team. Like, you talk about the talent level that they have. They were actually more talented than the Bruins. But the Bruins, they still had the grit from 2011. Like, they still had the guys, like the 17 of the 20 players that played on that 2013 team. They were on that 2011 team that won it all. Team, Sean Thornton, Sean Thornton, Lucic, Chris Kelly, obviously the captain, Zdeno Chara, Berge, Marchand at this point, like he was still coming into his own as a player, but you look back at 2013, I don't put that on as so much as the fact that Chicago was a better team. But let's be honest, I wouldn't put entirely Game 6 on Tuukka. Claude Julians also deserves blame for that loss because after Chicago tied it, it behooved me as to why the hell did Claude Julien did not call a timeout. He called a timeout after it was 3-2 Blackhawks, but not when it was tied. Because at that point, the Bruins were still playing on their heels, collectively shocked that they were a minute and 17 seconds away from going to another Game 7. I just want to get off the topic. It just seems like David Tyree. It just seems like something like that. Except David Tyree's worse. Yeah, no, because that was the one that really ripped your balls and just threw it to the wilderness. For sure. So now we're moving on from Tuukka Rask. There's a hell of a, I think, goaltending battle to be played out so far from the season. You see Linus Ullmark, who they signed in the offseason, and then Jeremy Swayman, who got knocked down because Tuukka came in. Now coming back, played okay last night. I think there was one little questionable goal, but otherwise, there was a bunch of goals that he wasn't responsible for. I'll bring it to you first. I'll give you it. But who do you like going forward? Who do you think can make a real impact on this team? Because in order to do anything in the playoffs, this team's going to have phenomenal goaltending. Right now, that's tough because I really have a hard time putting all my eggs into the basket of Linus Ullmark. Yeah. And Swayman has clearly showed me that he's not ready. Yeah. He's truly not ready. He's 1-6-1 with a .900 save percentage against elite teams, against playoff caliber teams. That's not good at all. No. And if you're a Bruins fan, that actually should worry you to death because with the trade deadline coming up, your options are very thin at goaltending. Rask is out of the picture, so you're now left with Swayman and Ullmark. This is where Bruce Cassidy, if there was one thing that I did agree with him on, and that was you need more from Swayman at this point. You do from Swayman, excuse me. You need more from Swayman. You need him to step up in these games. Like, for example, tomorrow night, I believe we got Carolina, right? Yeah, Carolina. We got Carolina. We got smoked by them last time, and right, and you need a big performance because for the psyche of the team moving forward, you need to be able to say, hey, you know what?
he can compete well against playoff caliber teams.
Yeah, for Swayman, I think it just comes down to reps. I don't think he's gotten enough reps this season where he can break it out. I think if you just let it loose with him, you play him 2 out of 3 games every time. I know they're going to go back and forth. I don't know who's got the net tomorrow night, but Linus Ullmark, you signed him for that much. You kind of got screwed itself because if he didn't have that big of a contract, if he was kind of like the same money that Jeremy Swayman was making, who knows what got down in Providence when Tuukka came up.
For sure.
So I think I'm not big on Ullmark at all. I think it was a horrible contract. It was kind of a waste of money. But now you kind of have 2 guys who are probably very, very well represented as backups, but can any of them make the big stride to be, the starting goaltender? Yeah, we talked about the 2019 Stanley Cup Finals, and that the Blues had a rookie goaltender in Jordan Bennington who really came around and, got the job done for that team. Now, can Jeremy Swayman, I'm not saying Stanley Cup or anything for the Bruins this year, but if he does half that, this team can win a playoff series. I don't see why they couldn't.
But that's as far as it goes. They'll win a series, but any idea or fantasy of, well, maybe they can go on a deep playoff run. Yeah, okay. You can basically kiss that goodbye into the Charles River. That's not going to happen.
Nah.
But the way that this team is currently constructed, I do have my doubts, but my biggest area of concern is, in fact, goaltending for this team moving forward.
Yeah.
And it's not just because of the fact that Tuukka retired.
And that's just a grocery list of the problems for this team. From what I've seen all season, from what I've even seen in past years, that the toughest thing for them has been secondary scoring. It's been
which they've gotten more of, which is why I'm not as concerned as I once was before in terms of secondary scoring, because they've gotten that from the second line, they've gotten that from the third line, and the fourth line has done its job. But
I'm sorry, but my problem for it is they had to move Pasternak down to the second
which
line.
was the right move.
No, it was definitely the right move, but now it hurts you because that first line with them 3 is just dynamite. So now that you kind of even it out, I get that is the move, but now you're getting secondary scoring from a guy who's not secondary. You're getting
he's a second line player who easily could be playing on your top line, but at the same time, there's a reason why you put Pasternak on that second line along with Eric Haula and Taylor Hall, and that is because their games complement each other. You saw that especially towards the end of January, where when they were rolling, that this was a team this was a line that was playing a north-south game that can you get to the net. Taylor Hall most notably, but also don't forget, Craig Smith playing alongside with Bergeron and Marchand end up working wonders, because this is a guy who can score you 20 goals, but also has the ability to complement the games of Bergeron and Marchand. So it's not a bad thing that Pasternak's playing on that second line. It's actually a good thing in terms of balance. But now, if you were to ask me, will this work in a playoff series in the best of 7 against a team like Toronto, or a team against Florida, or a team against Tampa Bay, or even the Pittsburgh Penguins, who the Bruins played on Wednesday night? That's a whole different question. Now, that's a different conversation altogether. But as of right now, I think the Bruins scoring, the secondary scoring, they've been able to figure that out. But could they use the second line center? Yes, they could.
I agree with that. I'm just saying, you put Craig, you're going to put all your chips into Craig Smith on the first line, and being able, obviously not going to contribute the way David Pasternak did on that first line. I get that. But to even get half of that of, scoring, or even, being in the play, I think if you look at the game, it's just Bergeron and Marchand bouncing back and forth. I haven't seen Craig Smith, really do that much. If you're going to put a guy out there on first line, he's got to be gritty and willing to work with those two. And I haven't seen too much production from Craig Smith this year. I know Pasternak and Taylor Hall on the same line. That's a lights out. I get that, but I'm saying you're not going to get as much production on that first line that you have in the past when you've lowered it to 3. I also know the expectations of putting Pasternak as opposed to putting Craig Smith on the first line there. My point of you're getting secondary scoring now, but the primary now it goes down. So the primary was here, and the secondary was here. So now it's kind of going down
it evens itself out.
Which is not necessarily always a good thing, because you look at the whole league in the past probably 4 years, the best line in all of hockey, it's not even a question. It was 88, 37, and 63 there. But now you kind of move it down, and you do even everything out. But to my point exactly, you kind of move things. You're literally evening things out.
But now, in terms of the best line in hockey, that distinction belongs to the Colorado Avalanche. You talk about the line that they have with with McKinnon and Rantanen and as well as Gabriel Landeskog when they're all healthy. That right now is the best line in hockey.
We'll see what they do in the postseason, but I agree.
I mean, the same can be said for the Bruins, but you're right about in terms of let's wait and see what the Colorado Avalanche do in the postseason because they have gotten to the postseason. They have been one of the premier teams in the NHL over the last 3 seasons.
Best defenseman in hockey.
They have not been able to do anything in the postseason, and that's why I believe that the Colorado Avalanche, as an example, they put the chips in the table for this season. Mm-hmm. Because, listen, they've gotten to the playoffs, and I remember listening to an interview that was done by Sportsnet right before the season began. It was during the NHL's media tour. Now that I remember it fully, it was between Jeff Marek, Elliot Friedman of Hockey Night in Canada, and Nathan McKinnon. They were talking about the Avalanche. And the thing that stood out to me in listening to that interview was that McKinnon was like, listen, we know that we have a good team. We have a cup contending team. The problem is that when we get to the second round, for whatever reason, things are falling apart. Go see the series against Vegas last year in the second round. Yeah. How they raced out to a 2-0 lead and things literally fell apart.
Nathan McKinnon's such a gamer, dude. He
and a game changer.
He's the type of guy you see in an interview, and he just his balls to the walls. Like all I want to do is win. I really don't care about scoring or anything like that. Yeah. So I have a lot of respect for Nathan McKinnon. On the Bruins side, we're gonna do some midseason awards, but the Bruins game last night kind of went to it. I'm gonna go with my team MVP, which will kind of lean into last night. I think it's without a doubt. Brad Marchand probably should have represented the Atlantic. No, that's basketball. Yeah, it's Atlantic. Okay, mm-hmm. So he probably should have been the All-Star game. He's been buzzing, getting on the point sheet wise, but last night was kind of a step back for him. Let his anger get the best of him after taking a 2-0 lead. They let up the next 3 goals, and what would he punched the.
You punched Tristan Jarry, not punched him, but he took his hockey stick and said, "Hey." Basically, give him the 5 fingers with a step with his hockey stick instead to the side of the head. Listen, if there's one thing that we know about George Powers and the NHL player of safety, they're so inconsistent. But in this case, I actually expect them to throw the book at Brad Marchand.
Oh, for sure.
No question. And I wouldn't be upset one bit if that happened. Because what he did in terms of the punch, no, it was absolutely inexcusable. But what he did towards the end of the game, come on.
He looked like a kindergartner. He's a repeated offender. I think getting 10 games is not out of the question. I think it's going to be in between 5 to 10. Yeah. I did think it was absolutely hysterical though when the Penguins guy tried giving the puck in the stands and Marchand just
that was Tristan Jarry. He tried to do it and then Marchand said,
yeah.
Get out of here! What you doing with that, man?
Yeah, that was so bush league. I started dying laughing. That was nuts. But for him, he's been the tail of the tape. Big shout out there. But of this team for the last couple years now, I know Pasternak's had a lot of goals. I know Bergeron is the captain of this team now. But Marchand's another guy that at the end of the day, 63 is going to be up there in the rafters along with 37, and who knows, 88's got a long way to go, but he'll most likely be there too.
For sure.
I got a lot of appreciation for Brad Marchand. It seems like the tough thing that happened with one of the Hayes brothers. It's
Jimmy Hayes. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a quote that he was visiting the Hayes family and things like that. So as much as he's a hothead on the ice, I think people need to take a step back and realize how great of a guy this is, not just the hockey player itself, but overall, that's my team MVP. Who's your team MVP? You right there or
my team MVP so far for the Bruins? Man, I really gotta go with Bergeron because he's been the guy who has really steadied the ship, especially at times early this season when the Bruins were really struggling to try to find their footing and so forth. In the first half of the 2021-22 season, where I'm sure Bruin fans do not want to remember pre-New Year's Day.
Oh boy!
But but he was that guy that really just kept things afloat, and there was a reason why he was named an All-Star again this season. And I just think that if I'm going to look at overall what he's been able to do production-wise and as well as defensively on a nightly basis, he's got to be the MVP of this team.
He's got to be a hell of an ox in the locker room, too, keeping the guys together. I mean, you had a tough loss the other night. I know he was knocked out, so he probably didn't even say anything, but most of those losses, like we even talked about the Hurricanes lost a couple of weeks ago, it's about sticking together, man. It's an 82-game season plus playoffs. Even you look at the playoff race right now, they're like over 10 points ahead of the team below them with games in hand. So, I mean, I'm not going to jinx them right now, but the playoffs seem pretty likely for the Bruins this year. So it's all about just staying together, because once you get in the playoffs, I know winning a round in the playoffs is a reasonable expectation. But you look at the Montreal Canadiens last year; they messed around and made the Stanley Cup.
They just fired their head coach Duke Ducharme,
and they got Martin St. Louis,
which is stunning because. Marty St. Louis, I'm actually a huge fan of his. Like, going back to when he was at Tampa Bay Lightning, and I followed him the last couple of years of his career when he played with the New York Rangers. Loved him. Absolutely loved him. But the hiring shocked me because this guy does not have any head coaching experience. But I don't think it would be fair to use that as like a baseline when you talk about guys like Rod Brindamore, who's the head coach of the Carolina Hurricanes,
killing it,
who's killing it, who doesn't have any head coaching experience. He was an assistant, but there is a difference.
Look at basketball, like a Steve Nash guy, just went right into it.
Right,
it's kind of a tough challenge.
Exactly.
Especially for that team, who has limited talent, who's at the bottom of the standings right now. Big fan of the Suzuki guy, and who's the guy from? He had a great year last year. He played for, I think, might have been UMass Lowell.
Cam McCarr? No. I'm thinking about somebody else.
I forget his name. Shoot, it's gonna kill me.
Rewind. Let me help you. Try to jog.
One of their best players, honestly, probably didn't. No, he didn't play for. He played up in Wisconsin, maybe. I'm not gonna get it.
What team does he play for now?
I think Montreal. He was a hell of a
Cole Caulfield?
Yeah, Cole Caulfield.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure what college it was. It was probably up north or something like that. But he's a tremendous talent for them in the future. But with Carey Price out,
and then also don't forget the loss of Shea Weber. His career is essentially over with the injury that he had. So I mean that's really a tough one.
He had a great career too. Great career in Nashville. We got our hockey half. We'll get into the baseball half. So. Baseball lockout update. The Manfraud is
that man
ruining stuff.
That man makes me fucking sick.
Do you have like an official update on the lockout? Because all I've read is he's going to come out with a presser or something, but they can't come to an agreement right now.
So as of right now, as we do the recording on Wednesday evening, there will be a press conference on Thursday morning with Commissioner Manfraud. Now, there have been rumors and speculation floating around that spring training will be delayed and, basically the season will not start on time. Basically, if that is, in fact, true, the season's not going to start on time.
Yeah.
So, at this point in juncture, I'm just curious to see, what the announcement is going to be or if there's going to be anything else that comes along from Manfraud himself in the press conference. So, that remains to be seen. But I'll be the first to tell you, I am thirsty as hell right now. And I'm not just only talking baseball, but what's that?
Talking about chicks?
Oh no. No. I can't be thirsty for chicks. You kidding me?
I can't get you in trouble.
Don't get me in trouble. Are you kidding me? No way. No way, Jose.
No,
I am a taken man. Thank you.
Attaboy.
But no, seriously. In terms of the lockout, I am ready to completely put Manfraud in the chokehold because. I am thirsty for baseball, so much so that last night I'm literally tweeting about the Yankees and about how I miss Yankee baseball. I miss the roar of Yankee Stadium. I miss being at the ballpark. Do not make me freaking snap because we're about to fucking lose games because Manfraud wants to act like a complete sackless moron and an ill-equipped leader. I'm trying to remain calm.
Yep.
I'm really annoyed. I'm just really annoyed. I'm trying to remain peaceful, calm, but the inner beast was supposed to come out right now and to say, Manfraud, your sport is choking itself. Figure it the hell out, please.
For me, it's Manfraud, and just the son of a bitch. But from this whole lockout, if spring training gets delayed and the games don't it's gonna kill prospects' opportunity to make a big league roster out of the gate.
Sure.
So I think they were killed over the pandemic. They were like minor league baseball was canceled. This is honestly probably, unless it might affect the major leaguers with their paychecks. That will probably be one thing, but I don't think guys are gonna be really too upset about playing. Hopefully they actually play, but if they play 130 games over 162, I'm sure the guys who are making $40 million aren't going to be upset. But this is tough for the little guys. This is tough for the guys who can make it, out of a spring training roster, a guy who's looking underestimated. So it's going to kill the little. It always does at baseball. Kills the little guy. All the guys who are paid, starting shortstop for the last 7 years. I don't think they're going to be too hurt by this, as long as
it's the guys who have very little service time in the major leagues.
Exactly.
That's going to be the most affected. And I want to see if I can pull up this tweet from Max Scherzer, because Max Scherzer really put this well. The other day,
I know a lot of guys
when he said something about. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. I found his Twitter page.
Okay, on the filler, I know like a lot of minor leaguers who are going to be hurt by this, like personally, and it sucks because these single A balls are not going to start in time, and forget about that. There's no funds for them anyway.
For sure.
Yeah.
So this is what he tweeted out. This was 5 days ago. We want a system where threshold and penalties don't function as caps. Allows younger players to realize more of their market value, make service time manipulation a thing of the past, and eliminate tanking as a winning strategy. That part about allowing younger players to realize more of their market value and make service time manipulation a thing in the past. You know how like top prospects would sometimes get called up and then they'll get sent right back down? That's what he was talking about. Because I've noticed this in baseball for years where, for some reason, you have a guy like Wander Franco of the Tampa Bay Rays, he'll get called up for a week or 2 weeks. Suddenly, he's back down in AAA, down in Charlotte. Why? Because we got to manipulate the service time and so forth so we don't have to pay him that soon. Yeah. I get that. I am with Max Scherzer 100% because think about it this way. Not every prospect is Wander Franco, who, by the way, got a nice contract during the offseason so far. Earlier this offseason, before the lockout, I think it was 11-year and like 180-something, 200 million
for another day, but he kind of screwed himself. But go on.
Not really. No, I vehemently disagree. I'm talking Wander Franco.
Yeah, I know.
No, he didn't screw himself. Why did he screw himself?
Because if he waited 5 years, he probably would have doubled his money.
Wrong. Because the Tampa Bay Rays never, and I mean never, pay their prospects.
And I'm not saying
and Wander Franco, despite how good he is, he wasn't going to be the exception rather than the rule. He was going to be that guy that if he did not get paid now, if the Rays did not attempt to lock him up now, they knew. Based on their own history. Think about guys like David Price. Think about guys like Evan Longoria. There was a reason why that they had to let them go in free agency because they couldn't afford to keep him. So they said, Wander Franco, this guy is a stud. We're going to lock him up now through his prime years up to the age of 32. And then basically when he gets to 32, we'll see what happens from there.
To my point, I think it was a slam dunk by the Rays, but on Wander Franco's decision, I think he could have got a lot more money in 5 years by a different team. Obviously, he liked the Tampa Bay area, but he's what's he
tax free?
Yeah, what's he 20 years old?
Yeah.
So I mean, if I got offered a contract like that at 20 years old, I'd probably take it. But if I was going to talk to someone, and he's going to be a top, I mean, if not already, like a top 5, shortstop, third base, whatever.
No question. Yeah.
No question. So I'm saying if he waited 5 years, I'm saying the Rays, this is a slam dunk for the Rays. Like they never get a player that good for that long term. But for Wander Franco, he probably could have made double the money if, he waited 5 years and went to go play for your team, went to go play for my team. I think I think it's a mistake there. I guess at that point you're just kind of, it's apples and oranges when you're talking about that many $1 million. But for those guys, his second contract's going to come at 32 years old?
32, yeah.
So we'll see what the production he has by the time he's that age, which it could be. It won't be when he's 25.
Let me tell you something.
Yep.
On top of the point you just made,
yep.
I want you to realize that in 3 years, mark my words, within the next 3 years, what Wander Franco is making now, his production is easily going to make his contract look cheap. Easily. Because
I think it does already.
Because no, he's not there yet. He had a terrific rookie season, and I'm not downplaying Wander Franco's talents at all because it is truly off the charts. However, I don't think he's there yet, and only because you got to see what he does in year 2. How does the league adjust to him? Is he still going to be able to produce? Now, he plays in the most dominant division in baseball. Now, baseball fans, we can have an argument. What division is most dominant? But if you're asking me right now, the most dominant division in baseball, the American League East. No question.
Oh, no question.
Like,
no
so Wander Franco, if he continues his production, or in fact, he gets even better in it, within the next 3 years, that $200+ million contract for the next 12 years is going to look minuscule in comparison to what, for example, Marcus Semien got with the Texas Rangers, or what Fernando Tatis got with the San Diego Padres. Oh my gosh. It's not a matter of when, but I don't think it was a mistake. I think it was smart on his part to get the bag now, because he knows Tampa Bay is not going to be able to afford that contract halfway through. I'm willing to bank on that based on their own history.
To the point of you saying he's not there yet, he was the best player in the series against the Red Sox on his team. Dynamite numbers, definitely the most valuable player on their roster right now. I mean, Brandon Lau just choked in the playoffs, who was their probably best hitter all year.
They're the best power hitter, but yeah.
Yeah, and then you see Wander Franco. Time and time again, he was clutch in that series. He had a big-time home run, and I forget what it's now. It's February, but it could have been like Game 4 or whatever it was. But Wander Franco, we're going to agree to disagree here, because I thought he could have got a bit bigger bag, and whenever his rookie contract's up, he could have gone somewhere else and made $20 more million than he was. So I do see what you're saying, and if it's me or you, yeah, I'm taking that bag all day. But if you really sit back and think about it, this guy's making $40+ million a year now, and that market's only going to go up as times go out, because you seem to see it every single year since we've been living, that every year there always seems to be the new guy who's the highest paid player in the league.
Oh, no question.
That's gonna be a thing from years to come, and it's gonna keep going.
And by the way, it's going to be a thing again once this lockout ends, because don't forget, Carlos Correa still hasn't gotten paid yet. So he may very well shatter what Fernando Tatis is getting. Some team is going to overpay. I'm willing to bet horse's money on that.
Who's this? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Carlos Correa.
Oh, Carlos Correa.
Someone is going to overpay for Carlos Correa, and he's going to end up getting paid more than what Marcus Semien got, more than what Fernando Tatis got. It's a matter of where and when, because he knows this is the last big contract he's going to get of his career. So he's trying to maximize value now. So to me, when you talk about Wander Franco, in terms of you should have waited a few more years, I see your point and where you're coming from. Not discrediting it whatsoever, but I also look at it from market value. Where does he play? Now, let's say that if Wander Franco was playing somewhere, let's say Los Angeles or Boston or New York, whether the Yankees or Mets, doesn't matter.
Yep. Big market.
He's getting more than the contract he just got with the Rays.
Oh yeah.
So you talk about market value in terms of where he plays, and as well as the team and the payroll and the payroll of flexibility is currently constructed. He could have gotten more somewhere else if he was playing a different market.
Not to mention my last thing before we go on a different topic.
Yeah.
So he could have just sucked the money right out of Tampa. So what if they get worse? What if they're not getting these guys out of the AAAs, the minor leagues of the world, and then all of a sudden their payroll is getting too high because they're paying this one player that much amount of money. So by the time, 12-year contract?
Something like that.
Yeah. So either way, so you're talking about even year 4. This team now doesn't have enough to pay anyone because they paid him as much as a big market team would pay a guy $40 million. How is he going to react when this team's
12-year, $223 million?
When his team sucks in year 4 and he still has 8 years on his deal.
And then, oh, by the way, his contract is guaranteed for around $185 million.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, if he did 12 years, and you're talking about $40 million a season, that could be $440 million. That's my point.
And in 3 years from now, that number wouldn't even be shocking, considering what the highest players in baseball are making now.
And not to mention, to my point exactly of year 4, the team sucks. He's done with the Rays. and he gets a trade to, a big market team like you mentioned, that's going to be an absolute steal.
Question:
for a big
do you
market
think
team.
that they'll suck in 4 years?
Oh yeah, I mean,
I don't think so. With the way that the Rays farm system is currently constructed, I don't think they're going to suck within the next 5 years.
But my point is they're not going to be able to pay anyone to come back, so all those guys are going to leave, and they're going to have to really rely, and they don't have Chaim Bloom anymore.
But here's what they've always have done well, going back to the days of when Andrew Friedman was there. They'll trade their best players off, but they'll get draft picks, they get prospects. I have not seen an organization in baseball with the not the salary cap, but the payroll as low as it is, continue to excel at a high level despite trading away or allowing their best players to walk away in free agency. See Carl Crawford. See David Price. See Evan Longoria. See Blake Snell, most recent example. Mm-hmm. That's my point exactly. They'll trade all these stars away and then get draft picks and prospects, and they'll still compete. They're still there year in and year out. There's something that Tampa Bay is doing right that the rest of baseball hasn't figured out yet. Not even Oakland has figured that out yet.
I wish our guy Anton was here. He's on the Steel Naz. He's a diehard Rays fan, so he would love this commentary. But we'll move on. So final subject of baseball before we get onto the power play.
Yeah.
So I got this question. So player on the Red Sox or Yankees you're looking forward to hopefully see play this year. I'll start with this. I think the hype has been, since the Olympics or whatever that was. He's been unbelievable in the minor leagues. I think Tristan Cassis is going to be a slam dunk for the Red Sox. Seems to be a real power bat. And, I know Bobby Dahlback had a decent year last year at first base.
Still got a lot of development to do, but yeah.
But there's an unbelievable upgrade, and it's going to be exciting to see whether, he could possibly, as an underdog, make the team in April.
Yeah.
He gets called up later in the year when the playoffs are coming, if they're in contention. Even, with whether, the dog days of the summer, you need a bat off the bench, he's there for you. I think it's going to be really exciting for that guy to see, because I just don't know how he fails in the MLB. He seems like to be a slam dunk. Seems like he's already faced, certain competition of major league caliber. I'm really excited to see this guy because it's going to complete the defense of, the lineup of the Boston Red Sox, and it's going to make other guys, exploitable for trade. I'm not going to say anyone in specific because I don't want anyone jumping off the wagon yet, but I'm just really excited about this guy. Bottom line.
There's a couple of guys that comes to mind for me that I'm most excited to see play this year. Number one, I am curious to see what Jason Dominguez, the Yankee prospect, is going to do, because there's been a lot of hype surrounding this kid now for 2 years now. I believe he just turned 18, if I remember correctly. And what I'm most curious to see is how does he develop physically? Because we can sit here and talk about like the numbers he put up in the minor leagues and so forth, but I believe that physical maturation is a real thing when it comes to Major League Baseball. Mm-hmm. You have to physically develop because you're playing 162 games a season. So you're playing as a wear and tear. Can your body hold up? Now, what I'm most curious to see is, can he continue to produce at the higher levels like AAA? And if there's a spring training, there should be a spring training, but should he get the invite to Major League Camp, how does he perform? How does he do? And so forth. And then the second player, Aaron Judge. Now, for some people, it may seem like, well, obviously, yeah, but no. But because when it comes to Aaron Judge, he is going to get that contract. The question is whether the Yankees give him that contract or will he get it elsewhere. So,
is he on the last year of his deal?
This is it.
This is it? Wow.
So what I'm most curious to see is how does he come out in 2022 after having a pretty good 2021 season. So that's another player that I'm looking forward to watching in 2022.
Good save there.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to our power play. I don't know if there's a background music, but so we got a big Super Bowl on Sunday as the Bengals take on the Rams. I said a whole bunch of, I guess, not nonsense. I think it was actually.
It wasn't nonsense. It wasn't gibber gabber.
No. Last night at our Steel and Naz recording, the whole episode was based on the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I'll let you have the floor first. Who wins this game and why?
there's so many really good storylines surrounding the Bengals and the Rams going into this game. But I hate to be that guy, but I really do want to see the Bengals win this one.
Oh, there's no question of wanting to see them win, but will they win?
I think they won't.
Okay.
The reason why I say that I don't think they will, but I want them to win, but I don't think they will, is because I do think that the Rams are going to come out motivated, ready to play, haven't learned the lessons that they learned from their loss of Super Bowl 53 to the Patriots, and use that to their advantage. Because I've listened to quite a few of the Rams players talk this week in different interviews, and it sounds like a team that we remember 3 years ago. I think there's 10 players on the Rams currently that are still there from team when Sean McVay
shit his pants against Bill Belichick,
basically,
the biggest game of his career.
Yeah, basically, and they talk about utilizing those lessons from 2018 to now, and I just get this feeling that this team is looking prime and ready to finally bring the Super Bowl to LA, and I think they will win. Those fans. But man, couldn't even fill up a high school the other day. I mean, they kind of did, but I just thought it was hilarious how people took that picture and ran with it. I had a chance to watch some of the rally that took place a little later in the evening. I mean, that place was packed. Yeah, but I was surprised. Like, really, at a high school field, like you couldn't do this at Dodger Stadium, or you couldn't do this at Angel Stadium. Like, you picked a small venue like a high school football field to do this. Like, that's what Twitter does. Though. They just run with shit. That's why Twitter is successful. Awesome. It's undefeated. It's awesome, but it's also a cesspool as well. Oh, for sure. For me, I think in this game, the Rams are trying to avenge their loss. They went all in. Yeah. Getting Von Miller, OBJ, trading their quarterback for Matt Stafford. And then you look at the other side here, a team that isn't even supposed to be there, playing with house money. But I'll tell you right now, they're playing with a born winner in Joe Burrow. He has a hell of a comeback story from Ohio State. Probably the best year anyone in college football history as a quarterback put together with LSU. They're winning that national championship. Yeah. And that's the best part about the whole thing, because they're looking all at Joe Burrow and how dynamic this offense has, which makes their defense, who's been so underrated, made a big-time interception in the divisional game against Tennessee at the midfield to get a game-winning field goal in McPherson. And then, they picked off and they dropped 8 back in the second half against Pat Mahomes. Yeah. And they really showed out. And what they did, they had an interception there. They were the reason. Joe Burrow's the sexy name, and he's a great player, and don't get me wrong like that. But at the end of the day, the defense is the reason why they won both games. Or the reason why. Now, let me ask you this question. Would you prefer to have Joe Burrow's eyes or his swag? That's tough, man. I gotta go with swag, but eyes are close, man. Eyes are close. But I think the writing is on the wall where whenever there's two teams in the Super Bowl and there's one playing with the Rams have to win this game. The Rams have to. Do they have to? They have to. They put all their cards in. They're all in. They now. Really did. You see, I'm rooting for the Bengals to win. Oh, that's no question. I think 99 you asked me a straightforward question. Do I think that the Bengals will win? Who wins? Why? Yeah, and why? Yep. I think the Rams will win, but I'm rooting for the Bengals. Oh, why? Yeah. Because nothing entertains me more than seeing Los Angeles sports fans absolutely cry, a city that doesn't really give a damn about its teams, unless if it's the Dodgers or the Lakers, just cry themselves to sleep. And then also, Sean McVay 0-2, Aaron Donald 0-2, Matthew Stafford 0-1. Yeah, I mean, it just sounds very Felgery, like you know what I mean? Like, for sure, I know everything you mean, and I think for this game in general, I think what you're getting, the telling tale is how do the Rams come out? If the Rams come out and score 21 points in the first 20 minutes, okay, Rams by a billion. If it's right away, not necessarily. I think so. Go ask Kansas City. Let me know how that worked. I'm telling you though that their front seven is way better than the Chiefs' front seven. It's just going to be really tough for them to come back. On the contrary, if
if it's a low-scoring ball game, if the Cincinnati defense is be able to keep them in, if somehow I think it's going to be a tough night for Chase because Jalen Ramsey's a hell of a football player. So these guys like T. Higgins and Boyd there are going to have hell of a nights, including Joe Mixon in the running back position. But I'm telling you right now, if it's a low-scoring game, look out for upset special and look out for a 55-yard field goal, 23-20, upset Cincinnati Bengals, who they stamp.
Man, that sound like a whole lot of like tossed salad in the air and just and no salad dressing. Why bore me with the details, man? Like, if anything, listen, what do I want this Super Bowl? I want chaos. That's what I want to see. I want to see back and forth, America's hearts pounding by the second, every incompletion, tip ball interception.
You don't think Cincinnati winning the Super Bowl is chaos? I think that's absolutely.
I think that's perfect chaos.
But that was
you
my
kidding?
Point. That was my point.
But see, here's the thing.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna throw you a wrench.
Yep. Throw me a wrench.
The ultimate chaos.
Yeah.
Would be Aaron Donald getting an interception, a la James Harrison in Super Bowl 43,
Super Bowl
43, and steamrolling his way to the end zone and getting the Super Bowl MVP.
Is that the salad dressing for you? That
totally is. Yeah. Hell yeah.
What's your go-to salad dressing?
Ultimately, man, I hate salad dressing. Funny enough.
Okay, good.
I mean, I would just use it as an analogy, but if you want to ask me, what salad if you're a salad dressing type of person, I mean, by all means. I just find it to be very overrated and very disgusting.
Good stuff. Okay, so what other we have to get on here? So you have the Rams. You got a final score?
I got Rams winning it. I think they're going to win it 28-23.
Okay.
I'm kind of going close along the betting line. Mm-hmm. I guess like the over under. So, yeah, I think it's going to be over 4.5. Yeah.
Yep, that's the spread, and then I think the 48.5. I think we were talking about last night.
I believe I know 24 hours ago it was around that number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, you see any prop bets you liked? Anything like that we can?
I don't know, but there is one that kind of popped in my mind.
Oh,
sort of. This is gonna sound silly as hell.
No, we're being silly here.
But what's the over under on the American anthem being sung?
95 seconds.
I was gonna go 120.
Yeah. No, we actually. Yeah. I'll leave the Steel and Naz for the Steel and Naz. But the lady who's singing it is a country singer who's very slow. In 95 seconds, that's a cakewalk. I'm hammering the over on that.
Like 120 sounds. I'm expecting it to be slow, emotional. Like it's the Super Bowl. I mean,
it's in LA. Everyone's looking pretty.
Of course. I mean, the glamour and the glitz. Yeah. It's the glamour and the glitz capital of the world. Like, I mean, let's not kid ourselves.
For sure. My prop bet, which I liked last night. So it's 14-1 odds for an octopus to be at the game.
No.
So that's a big. From what I heard last night, that's a big Detroit thing.
That is. That's why I'm like Cincinnati. Well, what the hell does that have to do with anything?
You got Matt Stafford playing quarterback, and you got Eminem at the halftime show.
Yeah, that is. They're both Michiganites. Yeah,
yep. And then also, which is also on the funny side of things, it's plus 300 for Snoop Dogg to smoke a blunt while he's singing. I think that's pretty good.
Oh, I think that's a lock.
Yeah.
I mean, this is California we're talking about. Like. Probably the most liberal state in the country, and then on top of that, weed is legal.
Yeah,
like, come on, like,
and who's gonna say anything if Snoop Dogg is
exactly? So I was like, dude, you're doing your thing, whatever.
It's like a part of him. Like,
exactly.
Yeah. Anything else we're covering tonight? I think I'm kind of wrapped here.
That is just about it. I'm about to do a. I just got shush on Twitter.
Ooh, that's tough.
So,
any big plans for the Super Bowl? Anything fun?
Right now, it looks like I might be watching it alone. I try to get the missus to watch it with me. She doesn't seem that interested, which kind of makes me sad a little bit. But I'll have to like butter her up somehow, some way over the weekend.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, folks, thanks for joining us tonight on the inaugural episode of Diamond Blades. Good shit tonight, brother.
Good shit, man.
We hope you enjoyed the conversation and want to thank Hedgebetter and Justin for making this all possible. Hope everyone has a great time with Super Bowl festivities.
And I hope that your phone does not die because it looks like it wants to die.
Yeah, that happened like 20 minutes ago, and I just let it ride.
Yeah.
As long as we got it out. But be safe out there, everyone. Celebrate accordingly, and we'll see you next time.